All right. History is repeating itself, ladies and gentlemen. Brandon Aiyuk is about to get traded or might get traded. I'm here to break it all down today. Brandon Aiyuk. So, news comes out a few days ago. An NFL insider saying that Brandon Aiyuk is most likely going to get traded because he doesn't see the 49ers keeping two highly paid receivers on the roster, which is very obvious. Deebo Samuel this next year has a cap hit of $28 million, a dead cap hit if they cut him today of $26.5 million. And so that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. If they were to re-sign Brandon Aiyuk, let's say to a $25 million per year deal, that's over $50 million in cap space. Now, you've heard a lot of content creators say that, but today I'm obviously going to break down a little bit of how the 49ers can trade or how they can keep Aiyuk, how it could maybe work keeping both of these guys, Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk, on the roster. This is kind of a loaded topic, so I'm going to try to keep it brief, but we'll see. So the first thing I want to get to is how the contract of Tee Higgins will affect Brandon Aiyuk. Now, the reason why I said history is repeating itself is Deebo Samuel in 2022, I believe it was summer of 2022, he was competing with DK Metcalf and Terry McLaurin for a contract extension. And I don't know if you guys remember, but when we were going through the draft process, all of us were thinking we're going to trade Deebo Samuel before the draft. But the reason why we didn't is because Terry McLaurin and DK Metcalf had not yet signed their contracts. And so we kind of had this standoff between Deebo Samuel and the 49ers to where the 49ers didn't want to trade him to a team because whoever they were going to trade him to didn't know how much they would have to pay Deebo Samuel because the other two guys hadn't gotten their money yet. So there was a lot of uncertainty in that situation where the 49ers didn't want to pay him because his deal could be huge. And the other teams that they could potentially trade him to, didn't want to pay him because there was a lot of uncertainty there because the other two receivers in his market hadn't gotten their deals yet, right? It's a very similar situation fast forward to today with Brandon Aiyuk because Brandon Aiyuk competing with a lot of talented receivers in this year, also looking for contract extensions. And those receivers are in a very similar ballpark as him. He's very similar as far as talent-wise goes as Tee Higgins, for example. And so the reason why I don't think we trade him before the draft is because there is a lot of uncertainty going on with other teams don't know how much they're going to be. Like if they were to trade for Brandon Aiyuk, other teams don't know how much they would have to pay for Brandon Aiyuk. Until Tee Higgins gets his contract done, I don't see the 49ers nor another team trading for Brandon Aiyuk and paying him until the contract of Tee Higgins gets done. I don't think that's going to be before the draft. I think this is a very similar situation to Deebo Samuel where it rolls into the summer. And if that happens, then the 49ers very well could extend him. Now, let's talk about how they could extend him and potentially keep Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk around for under $50 million between the both of them combined. Now, if they got, let's say, Brandon Aiyuk extended for about $24-25 million, that would be $53 million combined for this next year. Well, the year after that. Sorry, Brandon Aiyuk, if he got an extension, his extension would not go into I guess it would not go into play until 2025. But even so, Deebo Samuel's dead cap is $24 million in 2025. So even if the 49ers were to extend Brandon Aiyuk in 2020, and his contract would only go into fruition in 2025, then it would still mean, and Deebo Samuel still is owed $24 million in 2025 as well. So it would still be over $50 million, even if his contract went into place in 2025. I think what the 49ers end up doing is Deebo Samuel, the 49ers realize that their window is now. Their window is in the next 2 years, maybe even one. So what they're going to do is I think they realize that a rebuild is coming within the next few years. And what they're going to do is they're going to take some of the dead cap off of this year and next year and move it more into 2026 and 2027, which they already owe. In 2026, they already owe Deebo Samuel about $8 million in dead cap. In 2027, they owe him about $1.8 million in dead cap. I think they're just going to move some of the money from this year and next year and roll it into further years. Now, yes, down the road, this is a terrible move for the team because he's not going to be on the team in 2027. But the thing is if you acknowledge that your window is right now, then the 49ers have no choice. If they want to keep both of these guys on the team, they have no choice but to roll that money into 4 years from now. Because they understand that the money, they need to win in the next 2 years. So that's what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to roll Deebo Samuel into further years, his contract into further years. Now, how much will Brandon Aiyuk, I'll quickly touch on this. How much will Brandon Aiyuk get traded? How much will he go for? That is a loaded question. I think the 49ers, Brandon Aiyuk goes for 2 picks. I think he goes for a first-round pick. I think the asking price is very high. I think the 49ers know how to do business. They know what Brandon Aiyuk is worth, and that they know teams will pay a first-round pick. I think Brandon Aiyuk goes for a first-round pick and another high conditional, let's say a conditional third or conditional fourth. The thing is, why I don't think we trade him is if the 49ers trade him, right, they have to replace him in this year's draft. Otherwise, they don't have much of a good receiving core. So they have to replace him in this year's draft with a receiver. And most likely you'd be replacing him in the first round. If the first round pick that you got for this year, you'd be replacing him with. What a waste of a first round pick if you were to trade away a receiver and then use the pick that you got to draft a receiver. Now, they did that with DeForest Buckner. And I'm not saying that they're not going to do that, but I think that they have learned, if they're smart, they've learned from their mistakes. And don't do that again. Because if you guys recall, they drafted Javon Kinlaw. They got the pick that they got from DeForest Buckner, drafted Javon Kinlaw, and Javon Kinlaw didn't live up to his hype. So I don't think they do that. That did not work for them last time. That it isn't going to work for them this time. And who's to say that player that they draft in the first, second, third round is going to be as good as Brandon Aiyuk? You still have to develop him. So I don't think it happens. If it does, I don't even know if it's going to be, this before draft. But stay tuned because this news was big a few days ago. It's continuing to kind of grow. It's one of the biggest stories in football because there's not a lot of stories right now. Go Niners. I'm hoping the Niners don't trade Brandon Aiyuk because he is my most favorite player on the team right now. And we'll see what happens. Go Niners. Have a good rest of your night, everyone.